France, August 19th, 1944, 07:16 hours. The bell tower no longer had bells. German artillery had seen to that 3 weeks prior. What remained was stone. Broken stone. Jagged stone. Stone that provided cover for a man who shouldn't have been there. Sergeant Everett Brennan pressed his eye against a rifle scope. 23 years old, Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. Son of a gunsmith. Killer of men. 798 yards away, a German staff car rolled to a stop at a crossroads. The engine ticked as it cooled. 4 officers emerged, polished boots on French dirt, maps under arms, the confidence of men who believed they were beyond the reach of American rifles. They were wrong. One of them wore the collar insignia of a general, grey hair, straight back. The walk of a man who'd survived the Eastern Front and thought France would be easier. General Victor Hartmann. Everett had been waiting for this moment for 3 days, 24 hours in this position alone. No food, no water since midnight. His legs had gone numb 6 hours ago. His shoulders screamed, his eyes burned. None of it mattered. The rifle in his hands wasn't Army issue. It was a Winchester Model 70, serial number W-1847, a civilian hunting rifle, the kind you used to shoot deer in the Appalachian Mountains. Light, elegant, almost delicate compared to the military Springfield. For 3 years, instructors at Camp Perry had mocked this rifle. "What is that, Private? Your daddy's squirrel gun? That toy will get you killed, Brennan. Leave the civilian garbage at home, son. This is a real war." But Everett had refused to leave it behind. He'd carried it hidden in his personal gear for 2 years, used it in secret, lied about it in official reports, risked court-martial every single day, because this rifle wasn't just metal and wood. It was his father's last gift, his father's legacy, his father's love made tangible. And in approximately 3 seconds, it would kill a general. Just under 800 yards away, General Hartmann leaned over a map spread across the hood of his staff car. The morning sun caught the silver in his hair. He pointed at something. An aide nodded. Another officer made notes. Everett controlled his breathing. His father's technique. Slow the heart. Steady the hands. His heartbeat dropped from 52 beats per minute to 48. The crosshairs settled. 18 inches above the general's head. That's where Everett aimed. At extreme range, a bullet drops over 100 inches. Physics doesn't care about rank. Gravity treats generals the same as privates. 2 clicks right on the windage to compensate for the crosswind in the final zone. Wind he'd studied for 6 hours. Wind his father had taught him to read when he was 14 years old in the Virginia mountains. Wind isn't random, son. Land makes wind breathe, his father's voice, clear as if Gareth Brennan stood beside him in this ruined tower. But his father was dead. Had been dead since February 1942. Died of the same lung cancer that would kill Everett 43 years later. Died knowing war was coming. Died preparing his son for this exact moment. Everett's finger touched the trigger. His father had spent 2,000 hours hand-tuning this mechanism, making it perfect, making it an extension of thought itself. The Winchester cracked. The sound rolled across the broken landscape like distant thunder. Through the scope, still trained on target, Everett watched. The bullet traveled for 1.2 seconds, 1 full second of flight time, long enough for the world to change, long enough for a man's fate to be written in copper and lead. General Victor Hartmann never heard the shot. The bullet struck 2 inches below his left ear. Through the brain stem, instant death, no pain, no awareness. One moment he was planning tomorrow's counteroffensive, the next moment, nothing. He collapsed across the map he'd been studying, the map that showed how he would kill 300 American soldiers in the morning, 300 men who would now live, all because a Virginia gunsmith loved his son enough to build him a perfect rifle, all because that son loved his father enough to master it. For 3 days, military instructors had called it a toy. The 300 American soldiers who would see tomorrow's sunrise would disagree. Before we show you how this impossible shot came to be, this story took over 40 hours to research. We went through declassified military documents, we examined the actual rifle still preserved at Fort Benning, we traced the timeline through 3 generations of the Brennan family. If you value these deep dives into forgotten military history, hit that subscribe button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who understand that sometimes the greatest innovations come not from laboratories, but from love. Now, let's go back to the moment Everett discovered what his father had really built, 1 week before the shot. August 12, 1944, a barn somewhere in France. American forces were pushing east. The front lines were chaos. Everett's unit had bivouacked in what remained of a dairy farm. The cows were long gone, the farmer too, probably. Everett sat on a hay bale in the corner, away from the others, the Winchester across his knees. He'd been cleaning it. Same ritual he'd performed 1,000 times. Bore brush through the barrel, oil on the bolt, soft cloth on the stock. The muscle memory of a lifetime. But tonight, something was different. The stock felt wrong. Not damaged, not loose, just, wrong. A subtle shift in weight distribution that hadn't been there before. Everett ran his fingers along the wood. Walnut. His father had hand-selected this piece from a tree that had fallen in a storm in 1934. 3 years to cure the wood, another year to shape it. Precision that most gunsmiths would call obsessive. His father had called it love. Near the butt plate, Everett's fingers found something, a seam, almost invisible. He'd handled this rifle for 7 years and never noticed it. He pulled his trench knife, carefully worked the tip into the seam. The wood panel was hinged, it swung open. Inside the hollow stock, wrapped in oilcloth, was a piece of paper. Everett's hands shook as he unfolded it. The handwriting was his father's. Precise, methodical. The same hand that had written 1,000 work orders at Brennan Gun Works. "Son," it began, "if you're reading this, war has come. I've prepared this rifle for one shot. The shot that saves lives. The 800-yard shot. Trust it absolutely. Trust yourself absolutely. I built this for you, for this moment. Love, Father." Dated March 1937, 7 years ago. Everett stared at the note, read it again, then again. His father had known. Somehow, watching Europe tear itself apart in 1936 and 1937, Gareth Brennan had known war would come for America, had known his son would fight, had known there would be a moment when an impossible shot would be necessary, and he'd spent the last years of his life preparing for it. Everett looked at the rifle with new eyes. He'd always thought it was just a birthday present. A 16th birthday gift from a father to a son. A fine rifle, certainly. A Winchester Model 70 was a beautiful weapon even straight from the factory. But this wasn't factory. Everett examined the trigger assembly, really examined it for the first time with the eye of a trained gunsmith. What he saw made his breath catch. The trigger had been completely rebuilt. The factory trigger on a Winchester Model 70 broke at about 4 pounds of pressure. Safe, reliable, but not precise. This trigger broke at 1 pound, 6 ounces. That kind of trigger pull was illegal for civilian rifles. Too light, too dangerous. One bump could fire the weapon. But for a trained marksman, for someone who'd fired 10,000 rounds with this rifle, it was perfect. No creep, no over-travel, just a clean, crisp break that felt like snapping a glass rod. His father had spent hundreds of hours achieving this. Everett examined the barrel next. He'd always known it was accurate. But now he understood why. The barrel had been hand-lapped, every microscopic imperfection polished away. The rifling was so precise that light itself seemed to flow differently through it. 2,000 hours of work, at least, maybe more. The stock wasn't just shaped for aesthetics. It was custom-fitted to Everett's exact dimensions, measured when he was 16, built to account for how he would grow, the length of pull, the drop at comb, the pitch. Everything calculated for his body specifically. And there was more. Small lead weights embedded in the buttstock, invisible from the outside, perfectly balanced to counteract muzzle rise, to make the rifle return to zero after each shot. This wasn't a hunting rifle, this was a precision instrument, built by a master craftsman, built for war, built for one specific shooter, built for Everett. The full weight of it crashed over him. His father had spent the last 4 years of his life on this, from 1937 to February 1942, while the cancer ate him from the inside, while he grew weaker, while he knew death was coming every hour in the workshop, every late night, every time young Everett had found his father bent over the rifle with a jeweler's loop and a polishing cloth, not hobby work, not pride of craftsmanship. Preparation. For this war, for this moment, for the shot that would save lives. Everett remembered his father's last words. February 1942. The hospital in Charlottesville. Gareth Brennan, weighing 93 pounds. The cancer having consumed everything but his will. The rifle knows you, son. When the moment comes, trust it absolutely. At the time, Everett had thought it was delirium, the morphine talking, a dying man's last rambling. Now he understood. His father had seen this moment, maybe not the specific details, maybe not the exact date or location, but he'd known there would be a day when Everett would need to make an impossible shot, when lives would hang on precision measured in inches at distances that seemed absurd. And Gareth Brennan had made sure his son would be ready. Everett folded the note carefully, placed it back in its hidden compartment, closed the stock panel. The seam disappeared, invisible again unless you knew exactly where to look. He sat there in the darkness of the French barn, the Winchester across his knee, his father's ghost in every precision surface, in every perfectly fitted part, in every hour of love made manifest in metal and wood. Around him, other soldiers talked, played cards, wrote letters home, the normal sounds of an army at rest. Everett said nothing, just sat, just thought. 10,247 rounds. That's how many times he'd pulled this trigger since his 16th birthday. He'd kept count in a small notebook, every shot recorded, date, distance, conditions, result. His father had taught him that discipline. You don't just shoot, son, you study. Every round is a lesson. Write it down, learn from it. Now Everett understood why. His father was building a database of knowledge, of experience, so that when the moment came, when the impossible shot presented itself, Everett would have the accumulated wisdom of 10,000 repetitions to draw on. The rifle wasn't just metal and wood, it was a time machine, carrying his father's hands forward into the future, carrying his father's love into battle, carrying his father's skill across an ocean to a war the old man would never see. But this rifle would, and through it, Gareth Brennan would save American lives years after his own death. Everett made a decision. No more hiding, no more pretending. The Winchester had been built for this war, for impossible shots, for moments when the standard equipment wasn't enough. If that moment came, he would use it. Regulations be damned. Court-martial be damned. His father had spent 4 years of his dying life building this weapon. Everett would not let it be for nothing. March 1942, Camp Perry, Ohio. Everett Brennan stepped off the truck with his duffel bag and his shame. The shame wasn't his, it was America's. Pearl Harbor was 3 months behind them. The Pacific Fleet still smoldered. Thousands of American sailors had died, and the country had done nothing to prepare. Now they were scrambling, training soldiers as fast as they could process them, turning farmers and factory workers into infantrymen, throwing them at targets and hoping something stuck. Camp Perry was different. This was where they made snipers. The best marksmen from basic training. The ones who could hit targets other men couldn't see. The ones with the patience to wait, the discipline to remain still, the coldness to kill from a distance and feel nothing. Everett qualified on all counts. In basic training, he'd scored expert on every range, 300 yards, 500 yards, even the 600-yard course that most men failed. He'd put every round in the black, center mass, textbook perfect. The Army had noticed. "Your sniper material, Brennan, report to Camp Perry." So here he was, 21 years old, his father 6 weeks in the ground, the Winchester in his duffel bag, about to discover that the Army had very specific ideas about what a rifle should be. The formation was called for 0600, 53 men, the best shots from 100,000 recruits. They stood in ranks on the firing line. Lake Erie stretched cold and grey behind them. Sergeant Vance Drummond walked the line, 35 years old, Marine Corps, Guadalcanal, Bronze Star, the kind of man who'd killed other men and slept fine. He stopped at each soldier, inspected their rifles. The standard issue M1903 Springfield, bolt action, 5 rounds, Weaver scope, the official American sniper rifle, battle-tested, reliable, good enough to win the last war, good enough to win this one too, the Army figured. Drummond reached Everett, looked at the Winchester Model 70 in his hands, stopped, stared. The entire formation felt the change in temperature. "What the hell is that, Private?" Everett's voice came out steady. "My rifle, Sergeant. Winchester Model 70. "That's not a rifle." Drummond took the Winchester, examined it like a man examining a dead rat. "That's a goddamn toy. Your daddy's squirrel gun." A few men down the line laughed, nervous laughter, the laughter of men grateful the sergeant's attention was elsewhere. Everett kept his eyes forward. "Sergeant, the Winchester Model 70 is mechanically superior in several aspects. The trigger is cleaner, the action is smoother, the barrel is civilian garbage." Drummond thrust the Winchester back. 800 yards with that toy. You'll be lucky to hit a barn. Leave it in your footlocker, son. This is a real war. Something in Everett's chest tightened. He remembered his father's words. When the moment comes, trust it absolutely. But this wasn't the moment. This was just training. Just one sergeant with opinions. Everett could wait. "Yes, Sergeant." They issued him a Springfield M1903A4, serial number 3487234, a fine rifle, a good rifle. In the hands of a trained shooter, it could reach out to 600 yards reliably, sometimes farther, but it wasn't his. The trigger broke at 3 pounds, 4 ounces. Everett's father had tuned the Winchester to perfection. That 2-pound difference might as well have been 200. Every time Everett squeezed the trigger, his muscle memory expected one thing and got another. The stock didn't fit right, too long by half an inch, long by half an ounce. His father had custom-fitted the Winchester to Everett's exact dimensions. The Springfield was one size fits all, which meant it fit no one perfectly. The scope mounting was different, the eye relief was different, the way the rifle settled into his shoulder was different, everything was different. Everett qualified anyway. Expert marksman, top 10% of the class. On paper, he was proficient with the Springfield, but proficient wasn't mastery. The Winchester was mastery. Night after night, Everett snuck to the far range, 0200 hours, when the camp slept, when the sentries were lazy and cold and thinking about coffee. He brought the Winchester, brought his hand-loaded ammunition, his father's recipes, precise powder charges measured to 1/10 of a grain, bullets seated to exact depths. He fired into dirt berms that would swallow the sound. 20 rounds, 30, however many he could manage before dawn threatened. Every shot recorded in his notebook. Distance, wind, temperature, result, building the database, maintaining the connection, keeping his father's work alive. One night in April, he nearly got caught. The shot cracked across the range at 0237 hours. Everett was already working the bolt, chambering the next round, about to fire again. Then he heard boots, running boots, coming fast. He grabbed the Winchester, sprinted to the nearest equipment shed, shoved the rifle under a tarp, pulled out his trench knife and started sharpening it. Just a soldier who couldn't sleep. Doing some maintenance, nothing suspicious. Sergeant Drummond rounded the corner, flashlight in hand, eyes scanning. "Who's shooting?" Everett looked up, kept his voice level. "Don't know, Sergeant. Heard it too. Woke me up." Drummond's eyes narrowed, suspicious, but no evidence, no rifle, just a kid with a knife. "Get to your bunk, Brennan." "Yes, Sergeant." Everett waited 10 minutes after Drummond left, then retrieved the Winchester, wiped it down, buried it back in his footlocker under his dress uniform. Close. Too close. But he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The Winchester was his connection to his father. To the man who'd built this weapon, knowing he'd never see his son use it in war. Every round through that barrel was a prayer. Every perfect shot was a conversation with a ghost. May 1942, graduation. Everett finished 5th in his class. Expert marksman with the Springfield M1903A4. Qualified for deployment. Ready for combat. Sergeant Drummond called him aside after the ceremony. "You're a good shot, Brennan. Top tier." "Thank you, Sergeant." "But that toy in your footlocker," Drummond's voice went hard. "Leave it here. It'll get you killed in combat. The Springfield is battle-tested. Your daddy's deer gun is a liability. Clear?" Everett met the sergeant's eyes, held them. "Yes, Sergeant." He was lying. The Winchester went with him to Europe, hidden in his personal duffel, wrapped in clothes, disguised, smuggled, because his father had built it for war, and Everett would not abandon it to a footlocker in Ohio while American boys died in France. Some promises go deeper than regulations, some legacies matter more than orders. Sergeant Drummond called it a toy, just under 800 yards, and 2 years later, General Victor Hartmann would learn differently. June 1942. England, the staging ground. Everett Brennan learned to lie to his own army. The official gear inspection happened shipside, before boarding the transport that would carry them across the Atlantic. Officers walked the line, checked equipment, made sure every soldier had exactly what regulations specified. Rifle, M1903 Springfield. Ammunition, standard military ball, 150 rounds. Scope, Weaver 330C, military issue. Everett stood at attention, his Springfield held correctly, his duffel at his feet. Everything visible, everything correct. The inspecting officer barely glanced at the rifle, checked a box on his clipboard, moved to the next man. The Winchester was 6 feet away, wrapped in Everett's spare uniform, buried under socks and letters from home. No one checked personal duffels. Why would they? What soldier would carry extra weight across the ocean? A soldier whose father had spent 4 years building the perfect rifle, that's who. The transport ship stank of diesel and vomit. 3,000 men packed below decks, crossing the Atlantic in early summer, U-boats hunting, everyone knowing that one torpedo could send them all to the bottom. Everett kept the Winchester wrapped, hidden. The other soldiers in his unit never saw it. Why would they look? Everyone had personal gear, photos, Bibles, letters, the small pieces of home that kept you human. Everett's piece of home just happened to weigh 8 pounds and could kill at extreme range. England, training, more ranges, more qualification courses. The British watched the Americans and tried not to laugh at their enthusiasm. The Americans watched the British and tried not to see the exhaustion in their eyes. 4 years of war had taught the British many things. Enthusiasm died fast. What remained was competence, or death. Everett trained with the Springfield, qualified again, expert, top scores in his company. The officers noted it, marked him as potential sniper team leader. At night, in the barracks, he maintained the Winchester. Quietly, while others slept, oil on the bolt, cloth on the stock, keeping his father's work perfect. D-Day, June 6, 1944. Omaha Beach. Everett went in with the Springfield, left the Winchester secured in base camp. You don't carry a custom rifle through an amphibious assault. Salt water, sand, blood, chaos. The Springfield worked fine. Everett fired 83 rounds that day. How many hit? He never knew. In that meat grinder, individual kills didn't matter. You shot at movement, at muzzle flashes, at shapes in the smoke. You tried not to die. Everett didn't die. Thousands did, but not him. July, August. The push inland. Now the rifle mattered. Now precision counted. German positions in hedgerows, machine gun nests in farmhouses, officers directing traffic at crossroads. This was sniper work. Official records show Sergeant Everett Brennan with 8 confirmed kills between July and mid-August 1944, all documented as Springfield M1903-A 4 kills, all properly reported through channels. 6 of them were Winchester. The system was simple. Everett would identify a target, calculate range, retrieve the Winchester from his personal gear, make the shot, confirm the kill, then swap rifles, reported as Springfield. Why? Because official reports required the weapon's serial number. And Everett's issued Springfield had a serial number. The Winchester did not, or rather, it had a civilian serial number that would raise immediate questions. So he lied every time, 6 times. 6 German soldiers killed by a rifle that officially wasn't there. 6 victories for a weapon the army had called a toy. 6 confirmations that his father had been right. The other snipers in his unit never noticed. Why would they? You didn't watch other men shoot. You had your own sectors, your own targets, your own count. Only one man suspected, Captain Nathaniel Frost, 35 years old, former schoolteacher from Maine, history teacher, specifically, the kind of man who noticed details, who saw patterns, who asked questions. August 10th, a farmhouse outside St. Lo. Everett had just confirmed his 6th kill, a German lieutenant at 680 yards. 1 shot, clean. Captain Frost appeared beside him. "Hell of a shot, Brennan." "Thank you, sir."
What's the farthest you've made with that Springfield? Everett hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but Frost caught it. 680 yards, sir. Really? Frost looked at the Springfield in Everett's hands, then at Everett's face. Because I've seen the performance specs on the M1903-A4, and while 680 is possible, it's not typical. I've practiced a lot, sir. I'm sure you have, Frost smiled. It wasn't a threatening smile, just knowing. Carry on, Sergeant. He walked away. Everett's hands shook as he packed his gear. Frost knew, maybe not the specifics, maybe not about the Winchester hidden in the duffel, but he knew something was different about Everett's shots. That night, Everett considered ditching the Winchester, burying it, leaving it behind. Too risky, too dangerous. 1 inspection, 1 question, court-martial. Then he remembered his father's note. Trust it absolutely. and he remembered why his father had built this rifle.
Not for Everett's glory, not for personal satisfaction, but to save American lives. How many American soldiers had lived because Everett had killed those 6 German officers and NCOs? The lieutenant at 680 yards had been directing an entire company. His death had broken their cohesion. The attack had fallen apart. Maybe 20 Americans lived because of that shot. Maybe 50. Was Everett supposed to abandon the Winchester because of regulations? Let more Americans die because some sergeant at Camp Perry thought it was a toy. His father hadn't thought so. His father had spent 4 years building this weapon for exactly this purpose. Everett kept the Winchester, kept lying, kept fighting. August 15th, the push toward Brest, the German defensive line that wouldn't break. General Victor Hartmann organizing the defense with brilliant precision. And then the bell tower. The impossible distance, the 2 failed teams, the moment his father had foreseen 7 years earlier, the shot that would prove everything. 2 teams tried before Everett, both failed, both nearly died, and 40 American soldiers paid the price. August 15th, 1944, Team Alpha, Corporal Jack Reynolds, Private First Class Tim Rhodes, both expert marksmen, both equipped with M1903A4 Springfields, both confident. The mission brief was simple. German General Victor Hartmann was coordinating the defense. Kill him. The line collapses. Simple. The execution was anything but. Reynolds and Rhodes infiltrated the bell tower under cover of darkness, established their hide, calculated the range, 812 yards. Long, Reynolds said, but doable. They waited for dawn, for stable light, for Hartmann to appear. 7:30 hours. The German staff car arrived. Hartmann emerged, walked to the map table, leaned over. Reynolds had the shot. He'd compensated for distance, added elevation, calculated wind, everything by the book. He fired. The bullet struck the ground 15 feet short of the target, kicked up dirt. Hartmann didn't even flinch, too far away to hear the impact. But the Germans heard the shot, triangulated the direction. Artillery shells began falling on the bell tower within 3 minutes. Reynolds and Rhodes ran. Rhodes took shrapnel in the left leg. They made it back to American lines. Barely. The after-action report was clinical. Distance exceeded effective range of M1903-A4. Mission failure. August 17th. Team Bravo. Sergeant Hollis Patterson, the best sniper in 2nd Infantry Division. 12 confirmed kills, ice in his veins, confidence that bordered on arrogance. If anyone could make the shot, Patterson could. He brought a spotter, Corporal Luis Martinez. Good eyes, good instincts. They'd worked together for 6 months. They knew each other's rhythms. Patterson spent 2 days observing, taking notes, wind patterns, light conditions, Hartmann's schedule, everything professional, everything correct. August 17th, 16:15 hours. Hartmann appeared, right on schedule. Patterson had calculated everything. Distance confirmed at 798 yards. Elevation, 28 clicks. Windage, 4 clicks left for the prevailing wind. Martinez watched through the spotting scope. Steady, no change. Patterson's breathing was controlled, professional, perfect. He fired. Through the spotting scope, Martinez watched the bullet path, watched it sail, watched it pass 2 feet over Hartmann's head. Miss, high! Patterson's face went white. That's impossible, I calculated. Wind shifted, Martinez said. Just as you fired, I saw it. But it was too late to matter. The Germans had the bell tower's position now, and they had something new, a counter-sniper team. The German bullet hit Martinez in the shoulder, punched through muscle, shattered bone. Patterson grabbed him, dragged him from the tower. German machine gun fire tore apart the stone where they'd been lying seconds before. They made it back. Martinez would survive. But his sniper days were over. Patterson sat in the aid station, watched the medics work on his friend. His hands shook. Captain Frost found him there. "It wasn't your fault, Patterson. I had him." Patterson's voice was hollow. "I calculated everything. The wind shifted at the last second."
Extreme range is ye. I know what extreme range is, sir." Patterson looked up. "I know the Springfield's limits. I pushed them. I failed." 40 American soldiers died over the next 48 hours. The German defensive line held. Hartmann's tactical genius kept them organized, kept them effective. 40 families would get telegrams. The War Department regrets to inform you, all because 2 sniper teams couldn't make a shot at the very edge of possibility.
Captain Frost sat in his tent that night, stared at the map, at the bell tower position, at the range calculation written in red pencil. The Springfield wasn't designed for that range. Could it reach? Yes. Theoretically, under perfect conditions with perfect execution and perfect luck. But perfect didn't exist in war. Frost thought about Sergeant Everett Brennan, about the 6 suspiciously long-range kills, about the way Brennan's shot seemed different, cleaner, more precise, about the rumors, never confirmed, never investigated, that Brennan had brought a personal rifle from home. Frost made a decision. He went looking for Brennan. Captain Frost found Everett cleaning his rifle, not the Springfield, the other one. Everett looked up, saw the captain. For a moment he considered hiding the Winchester, pretending, lying again. Then he saw Frost's face, and he knew, the captain knew, had probably known for weeks, was just now deciding what to do about it. "Sergeant Brennan," Everett stood. "Sir." Frost looked at the Winchester, really looked at it, the way you look at something you've heard about but never seen. "Is that what I think it is?" "No point lying now." "Winchester Model 70, sir. My father built it. Custom work." "Your father was a gunsmith?" "Best in Virginia, sir." Frost picked up the rifle, felt the balance, the weight, the way it settled into his hands like it belonged there. "This is a civilian weapon, Sergeant." "Yes, sir." "You've been carrying it for 2 years." "Yes, sir." "Using it in combat?" "Yes, sir." Frost should have been angry, should have confiscated the rifle, should have brought Everett up on charges, unauthorized equipment, falsifying reports, conduct unbecoming. Instead, he asked a different question. "How many of your kills were with this rifle?" Everett hesitated, then decided truth was the only path left. 6 of 8, sir." Frost nodded slowly, like a teacher whose student had just confirmed a hypothesis. "The long-range ones?" "Yes, sir." "Show me your notebook." Everett pulled it from his pack, the small journal where he recorded every shot, every condition, every variable, his father's discipline made manifest in neat handwriting and precise numbers. Frost read, page after page, over 10,000 rounds recorded, distances, wind speeds, temperatures, results. "Your father taught you this?" "Yes, sir. He said every round is a lesson. Write it down, learn from it." Frost closed the notebook, handed it back, looked at Everett with something that might have been respect. "Patterson just failed at extreme range with a Springfield. Good man, best sniper we have. He couldn't make it." "I know, sir." "You think you could?" Everett looked at the Winchester, his father's last gift, his father's legacy. "With this rifle, sir?" "Yes."
"You're certain?" "My father built this rifle for that shot, sir. He knew it was coming. Spent 4 years preparing for it. I've spent 7 years mastering it." Everett met Frost's eyes. "I won't miss." Frost was quiet for a long moment. Outside the tent, soldiers moved, talked, lived their lives, unaware that this conversation was happening, that decisions were being made. "If you miss," Frost said finally, "you'll probably die. The Germans have the tower zeroed.
They have counter-snipers watching it. I understand, sir. If you succeed, and this becomes public, we'll both face court-martial. Unauthorized weapons, falsified reports, they'll throw the book at us. I understand, sir. And even if you make the shot, there's no guarantee the line will collapse. No, sir. But intelligence says Hartman is the keystone. Remove him, and their cohesion falls apart. Frost nodded. Thought. Calculated. The calculus of command. 40 men already dead. Maybe 300 more if the line didn't break. Weighed against regulations, against his career, against the rules, against 2 men's honor. The choice wasn't hard. Make your preparations, Sergeant. You go in tonight. Everett felt something in his chest loosen. Yes, sir. Frost turned to leave, then stopped, looked back. Your father, what did he die of? Lung cancer, sir, February 1942. He knew war was coming. Yes, sir. Built this rifle to protect American boys.
Yes, sir. Frost smiled, sad, understanding. Then let's not make his work be for nothing. Kill that General Brennan, for your father, for the 40 we've already lost, for the 300 we might lose tomorrow. I will, sir. After Frost left, Everett sat with the Winchester across his knees, his father's words echoed, clear as day. When the moment comes, trust it absolutely. The moment had come, just under 800 yards, 1 general, 1 bullet, everything his father had built.
Everything Everett had learned, everything they'd prepared for. Tomorrow morning, the shot that would prove them both right, or kill Everett trying. He began his preparations. August 19th, 1944. 05:45 hours. German command post. General Victor Hartmann woke to darkness that came from inside. The weight of command. The knowledge that today, like yesterday, men would die because of his decisions. 52 years old, grey hair, lines around his eyes that hadn't existed when the war started. 3 years on the Eastern Front had aged him 2 decades, but it had also taught him how to keep men alive when situations were hopeless, how to organize retreat when attack was suicide, how to turn chaos into order. That's why they'd sent him to France, to hold, to delay, to make the Americans pay. He was good at making people pay. Hartmann lit a candle, found the paper and pen beside his cot. The morning ritual. Before the day could claim him, before a bullet could make promises into lies. My dear Hans, he wrote, day 47, the Americans continue to push. They are brave, foolishly brave sometimes. They remind me of you, young, idealistic, believing courage alone can change the world. Hans was 19, fighting in Italy. The last letter, 3 weeks delayed, said he was near Rome, trying to hold back the Allied advance. Trying, failing, just like Hartmann was failing here. The war was lost. Any officer with eyes could see it. Germany crushed between 2 millstones, Russia from the east, America and Britain from the west, but orders were orders. Hold the line, delay the advance, make them bleed. 40 American soldiers in 3 days that he knew of, probably more. He didn't enjoy it. These Americans weren't Soviets. They didn't burn villages, didn't execute prisoners. They were just soldiers following orders, like him. The Americans are pushing toward Brest, he continued. I have coordinated 3 battalions into defensive positions along the ridgeline. It is holding, for now. But they are learning. Soon they will find the weakness. And when they do, we withdraw. Again. He paused, looked at the photograph in his breast pocket. Hans, 18 in the photo, baby-faced, smiling, the uniform too big in the shoulders. Hold your position 1 more week. Then we withdraw to the Rhine, then we go home. We will survive this, Hans, I promise you. We will sit in the garden. We will drink beer. We will talk about everything except the war. Promises, easy to write, hard to keep. 06:30 hours, staff meeting. the farmhouse that served as command post, maps spread across a door laid flat, 3 captains, 2 lieutenants, young men with old eyes. "Gentlemen," Hartman marked positions with grease pencil. "The Americans probed our left flank yesterday. Reconnaissance, they're looking for weakness."
"When do we withdraw, sir?" Captain Werner asked. 26, law student from Berlin. "Orders say hold for 1 week, then fall back to prepared positions near Brest proper." 1 week, 7 days, then retreat again. Give up more ground. Draw the noose tighter. But a week was time. Time for Hans's letter to arrive. Time for some miracle that wouldn't come, but every soldier secretly hoped for. The meeting continued. Logistics, supply, casualties, the mundane machinery of war, 715.
Hartman walked outside, morning sun warm on his face. For one moment, he let himself forget the war, forget the inevitability of defeat. For one moment, he thought about his son, about going home, about surviving. Then the moment ended. "Sir, the staff car is ready." Hartman nodded. Time for his morning inspection. He did this every day. Appeared at the forward command post, let the men see their general shared their risk. Pattern, routine, Eastern Front habit. Patterns kept soldiers calm. Never occurred to him that patterns could kill. He walked to the staff car, climbed in, the driver started the engine. Just under 800 yards away, in a ruined bell tower, Everett Brennan had been waiting all night. General Hartman had 15 minutes to live. August 18th, 1944, 0300 hours. The crawl began in darkness so complete it erased depth perception, made every shadow an enemy, every sound a death. Everett lay in a drainage ditch. 200 yards from the bell tower, 200 yards that might as well be 200 miles, the Winchester strapped to his back, wrapped in burlap. 8 pounds of his father's legacy pressing into his spine. 45 pounds total with ammunition, scope, water, notebook, everything that would slow him, make noise, get him killed. Everett took a breath, exhaled, began to move. 10 yards of crawling. Freeze. 5 minutes of absolute stillness, then 10 more yards. German patrols every 15 minutes. Flares every 10 to 12. If a flare caught you moving, the machine guns would cut you apart. So you moved in the gaps, in the darkness between light, like a ghost. 10 yards. The ground wet from dew, soaking through his uniform, making him cold, making him shake. He controlled it. His father's discipline made flesh. 5 minutes frozen. A patrol passed 30 yards left. 3 soldiers. 1 laughed at something. They had no idea Everett was there. The patrol moved on. Everett waited 2 more minutes. Moved again. 0400 hours. 1 hour. 50 yards covered. 150 to go. His arms trembled. Legs numb. Couldn't feel his toes. None of it mattered. The bell tower rose ahead, black against slightly less black sky. Damaged, half collapsed, bells long gone. A flare went up. Brilliant white, turning night to day. Everett pressed flat. Face in dirt. Don't move, don't breathe, don't exist. 43 heartbeats. 44. 45. The flare died. Darkness returned. Move. 0530 hours. 150 yards covered. 50 to go. The sky lightening. Grey creeping into black. Dawn coming. And dawn was death. He moved faster. Risk versus mission. Life versus duty. Everett's hands found wire, barbed wire. The Germans had strung it. Of course they had. He lifted it, slid under. A barb dug into his back. Tore skin. Blood flowed. He kept moving. 0600 hours. The tower base. A gap in the rubble. Big enough for a man, barely. Everett squeezed through, into the tower interior, complete darkness, his eyes adjusted slowly. The collapsed stairway formed a climbable slope. He began to climb, hand over hand, the Winchester banging against his back, every sound echoing. A stone shifted, fell, bounced down with a sound like a gunshot. Everett froze, listened, no response from outside. The walls had muffled it. He climbed, 40 feet, the bell chamber. The bell, open to sky through the damaged roof. Everett pulled himself over the edge, collapsed, breathing hard, shaking, bleeding. 4 hours, 200 yards, an eternity compressed into crawling distance, but he was here, alive, ready, blood on the floor, Martinez's blood from 2 days ago, and something else, a rosary, Martinez's rosary, dropped or left behind. Everett picked it up, held it. He wasn't Catholic, wasn't anything, but right now he believed in prayer. For Martinez, for Patterson, for the 40 we've lost. For Dad. Dawn was coming, and with it, General Victor Hartmann. The firing position took 30 minutes to build. Rubble, fallen stones, arranged carefully, creating a stable platform. The Winchester rested perfectly. His father's precision deserved perfect support. Spotting scope positioned left, notebook open. Pages of data. 7 years. 10,000 rounds of experience. Everything his father had taught him, everything he'd learned, all coming down to one shot. 700 hours, dawn, golden light spreading across the French countryside, beautiful, peaceful, completely at odds with war. Everett settled into position. The Winchester fitted into his shoulder like it belonged there, because it did. His father had built it to fit exactly. Through the spotting scope, he could see the German command post, the exact distance, a farmhouse, map table outside, officers coming and going, but no Hartmann yet. Everett began his study. This was the invisible part of sniping, the part that took hours, the part civilians didn't understand. Wind. He watched grass between his position and the target. The grass told stories. Zone 1, 0 to 300 yards, sheltered by tower ruins, barely moving, calm. Zone 2, 300 to 600 yards, open field, grass bending, shifting, wind from the left, gusting, variable between 8 and 12 miles per hour. Zone 3, 600 to the target, ridge effect, steady, right to left, about 5 miles per hour. His father had taught him this. 14 years old. Virginia mountains. Watching wind patterns. Land makes wind breathe, valleys channel it, ridges deflect it. Everett calculated. Zone 2 would push the bullet left, 4 inches. Zone 3 would push it back right, 3 inches. Net effect, 1 inch left drift. 2 clicks right on the scope to compensate. Distance, confirmed by mil-dot ranging, by map measurement, by known reference points. At this range, the bullet would drop 110 inches, almost 10 feet, 30 clicks up on elevation. The crosshairs would be 18 inches above the target's head. It looked wrong, felt wrong, but physics said otherwise. Waiting, 800 hours, a staff car approached. Everett's heart rate spiked. He controlled it, breathing steady. The car stopped. Officers emerged, 4 of them. Everett studied each through the scope. Too young, wrong uniform, not Hartmann, just staff officers. They gathered around the map table, pointed, discussed. One laughed. Everett watched, waited. His finger nowhere near the trigger. Patience. The officers finished, returned to the car. drove away. False alarm, first of several, 0900 hours, movement to the north. Everett swung the spotting scope. 400 yards out, German soldiers, setting up a tripod, a scope, counter-snipers. His blood went cold. They were hunting for whoever had tried shooting from this position, looking for any fool who might try again. And Everett was that fool. He froze. Absolutely still. The counter-sniper team scanned, slowly, methodically. The German scope swung toward his position, paused, held. 8 seconds. 9. 10. Were they seeing something? Were they about to fire? 11. 12. The scope moved on. Everett's position dismissed as empty ruins, he exhaled, slowly, silently, close, too close. But now he knew, if he fired, they'd see the muzzle flash. One shot, then he had to move. 1100 hours. A mouse appeared, walked across Everett's hand, stopped, looked at him with black eyes. Everett didn't move. The mouse sniffed his finger, decided he wasn't interesting, walked away. If a mouse could ignore him, the Germans could too. 1800 hours, 11 hours in position, the sun descending, light turning red. If Hartmann didn't appear before dark, the mission failed. He'd have to try again tomorrow, but tomorrow the Germans might be more alert, might have learned. It had to be today. Everett made a decision. He wouldn't leave. Too risky. Better to stay. Spend the night here. He had water. He had the Winchester. He'd be fine. 2000 hours. Dark. Stars emerging. The command post illuminated by lantern light. Officers still working. Germans were disciplined. Everett respected that. They were the enemy, but they were professional. War was strange that way. You could respect the men you killed. 0200 hours. Midnight passed. August 19th now, the day of the shot. Everett allowed himself shallow sleep. 2 hours combat sleep, ready to wake at any sound. He dreamed of his father, of the workshop, of hands building perfection. This is for you, son, for the moment that matters. 0600 hours. Dawn, August 19th, 1944. 24 hours in position. But who was counting? Everett took his position behind the Winchester. Everything automatic. Muscle memory from years of practice. Through the scope, the command post. Empty. But not for long. Hartmann's routine. Every 4 hours, he'd appeared at 0800 yesterday. And the day before. Patterns. The things that killed. Everett controlled his breathing, slowed his heart, became the rifle, his father's voice, one last time. Trusted absolutely. 0715 hours. A staff car appeared on the road. This was it. The staff car rolled to a stop at exactly 0715 hours and 32 seconds. Everett tracked it through the spotting scope. Command car, staff markings. This was it. 4 officers emerged, polished boots, pressed uniforms, German discipline showing even in retreat. One had grey hair, straight back, the bearing of command, General Victor Hartmann. Everett shifted to the rifle scope. The Winchester's crosshairs found the map table, found Hartmann walking toward it. Heartbeat, 48 beats per minute, slower than most people's resting rate. Cardiovascular control through breathing discipline. Range confirmed, wind calculated, everything ready. Hartmann leaned over the map, studied something. An aide pointed. Everett's finger moved to the trigger. The custom pull his father had spent hundreds of hours perfecting. Light, crisp, predictable. He began the final breathing sequence. Inhale 4 seconds, through the nose, deep into the lungs, oxygen flooding the system, sharpening vision, steadying hands. Hold 2 seconds, the pause between breaths, the moment of perfect stillness. Exhale, 6 seconds through the mouth, slow, controlled, the body relaxing, muscles releasing tension, natural respiratory pause. The moment between breaths where the body is absolutely still, where the diaphragm isn't moving, where the chest isn't rising or falling. That's when you shoot. The crosshairs settled. 18 inches above Hartmann's head. Physics, gravity, the inevitable arc. 2 clicks right, wind compensation, net effect accounted for. Everett's world narrowed, the scope image, the crosshairs, the target. Nothing else existed, not the counter-snipers, not the risk of death, not the weight of the mission, just the shot, just the rifle, just his father's legacy proving itself. The trigger. His father's impossibly light brake. Everett applied pressure gradually, smoothly, not a pull, a squeeze, the pressure building until break. 07:16 hours, 16 seconds. The Winchester cracked, sound rolling across the broken landscape. Sharp, final, irreversible, recoil, gentle push into his shoulder. The rifle rising slightly, follow through, staying on target, watching. The bullet left the barrel at 2,820 feet per second, 3 times the speed of sound, 165 grains of copper and lead. His father's hand load, perfection in brass and primer. The bullet climbed, rising on its ballistic arc, spinning, the rifling imparting stability, making it a gyroscope of death. 0 to 200 yards, 0.3 seconds, rising. Velocity steady, wind calm in zone 1. 200 to 400 yards, 0.3 seconds. Peak arc. The bullet began to fall, gravity asserting itself. Zone 2, open field, wind from the left, 8 to 12 miles per hour. The wind caught the bullet, pushed it 2 inches right, the bullet's path curving. 400 to 600 yards, 0.3 seconds, falling faster, velocity dropping to 2,600 feet per second. Zone 2 continued. Wind pushed more, another 2 inches right. Total drift, 4 inches right of original path, 600 to the target, 0.3 seconds. Zone 3, ridge effect, wind from the right, steady, 5 miles per hour. The wind pushed back, left, 3 inches, compensating, correcting, net drift, 1 inch right, exactly as calculated, exactly as his father's training had prepared. The bullet fell, 110 inches of drop, almost 10 feet, falling, falling, falling. General Victor Hartmann stood at the map table, studying positions, planning defense, thinking about his son, about going home, about surviving. He never heard the shot. Impact velocity, 2,200 feet per second, still supersonic, still carrying tremendous energy. Impact point, 2 inches below the left ear, through the carotid artery, through the brain stem, instant, absolute, final, one moment, Victor Hartmann was thinking, planning, living, the next moment nothing, his last thought incomplete. 1 more week, then Hans and I go. He fell, across the map table, body collapsing, papers scattering, the aides shouting, officers running, confusion, panic. Where did that come from? Get down, get to cover. Just under 800 yards away, Everett worked the bolt. The spent casing ejected, brass spinning. Glinting in morning sun, landing on stone, he chambered another round, ready, just in case. Through the scope, he watched, German officers scattered, taking cover, searching for the source, finding nothing. 10 seconds, no one approached Hartmann's body. They were pinned, terrified of the invisible shooter. Good. Everett began his withdrawal. 15 seconds after the shot, he was packing. The Winchester broken down, everything stored, moving fast, before the Germans organized. Before the counter-snipers realized, before artillery bracketed his position. 30 seconds, equipment packed. He took one last look at Martinez's blood, at the rosary he now left as tribute. Got him, Martinez. For you, for the 40, for Dad. 45 seconds, Everett started down the rubble slope, controlled descent, fast but not reckless. 1 minute, the first artillery shell hit the tower. High explosive, the building shook, stone fragments flew, but Everett was already 30 feet down. 90 seconds, ground level. He squeezed through the gap, emerged into daylight, the tower behind him taking sustained fire. He didn't look back. The mission was done. He low-crawled to the drainage ditch, slid into it. The water was cold, filthy, beautiful. 300 yards from the tower, artillery still pounding, the Germans determined to kill whoever was in there, but Everett was already gone, already safe, already moving back. He'd made the shot. 1 bullet, 1 general. 300 American soldiers would see tomorrow. His father had been right. The rifle had been ready. Everett had been ready. Everything had worked exactly as designed. 20 minutes later, Everett crossed into American lines covered in mud, bleeding from cuts, exhausted, victorious. Captain Frost was waiting. "Did you—" Everett nodded, once, clean. Frost's face transformed, relief, joy, respect. "You magnificent bastard. You actually did it." "The rifle did it, sir. My father did it. I just pulled the trigger." But that wasn't true, and they both knew it. Years of dedication. 24 hours in position. 1 perfect shot. That was all Everett. All skill, all mastery. His father had built the instrument, but Everett had played the symphony. 1 second of flight time, 1 dead general, and 300 lives saved. The impossible shot had been made. The toy rifle had won the war. The German command post descended into chaos. Officers scattered, shouting, confusion. General Hartmann lay across the map table, blood spreading, staining the papers that showed tomorrow's counter-offensive, the offensive that would never happen. His aide, Lieutenant Werner, 26 years old, law student from Berlin, reached the body first, checked for pulse, found none, looked at the entry wound, 2 inches below the left ear, clean, precise, professional. Werner's hands shook as he searched Hartmann's pockets, looking for orders, for contingency plans, for anything that would tell him what to do now that the general was dead. He found a letter, sealed envelope, addressed to Hans Hartmann, Italy. Werner opened it, read it. The general's handwriting, neat, precise. A father writing to his son. "Hold your position 1 more week. Then we withdraw to the Rhine. Then we go home. We will survive this, Hans, I promise you." Promises the general couldn't keep now. Werner broke down, right there, in front of the other officers, in front of the men, tears streaming for the general, for Hans, who would never see his father again, for himself, for all of them, because they knew what this meant. Without Hartmann, the defense would collapse. Without his tactical genius, they were just scattered units. No coordination, no plan, no hope. The American radio intercept team picked it up 30 minutes later. Corporal James Wade sat in the signals tent, headphones on, monitoring German frequencies. Most of it was routine. Supply requests, position reports, the mundane traffic of an army in retreat. Then, everything changed. General Hartmann KIA. Repeat, General Hartmann KIA. Request immediate command replacement. Defensive coordination impossible. All units prepare for withdrawal authorization. Wade ripped off the headphones, ran to find the intelligence officer. "Sir, German radio traffic. Hartmann's dead. They're falling apart." The intelligence officer, Major Robert Quinn, 38, former journalist, verified it. Multiple German transmissions, all confirming, all panicking. Quinn brought it to Division Command. Colonel Thomas Matheson read the intercepts, then read them again, looked up at Captain Frost, who'd been waiting in the corridor for 3 hours. "Your sergeant did it." "Yes, sir." "At extreme range?" "Yes, sir." "With a hunting rifle?" Frost hesitated, then committed. "Yes, sir." Matheson was quiet for a long time. Outside, the war continued, artillery in the distance, small arms fire, the grinding machinery of armies colliding. "Captain Frost, do you understand what you've done?" "Sir, I authorized—" "You authorized the use of a civilian weapon in combat, unauthorized equipment, falsified after-action reports, violation of—" Matheson stopped, shook his head. "You also saved 300 American lives." Frost said nothing. What could he say? Matheson pulled out a bottle of bourbon, poured 2 glasses, handed one to Frost. "To Sergeant Brennan and his toy rifle." They drank. "The line will collapse," Matheson said. "Intelligence projects full withdrawal within 24 hours. Without Hartmann's coordination, they can't hold." "Yes, sir." "Casualties for our planned assault tomorrow were estimated at 300 to 350 KIA. Now, we won't have to make that assault." "No, sir." "More." Matheson poured another drink. "I'm putting Brennan in for the Silver Star." "Thank you, sir. But there's a problem." Frost waited. Geneva Convention, Article 23, subsection E, prohibits the use of arms or material calculated to cause unnecessary suffering. A hunting rifle doesn't. Civilian weapons create legal ambiguity. If the Germans discover we used non-standard arms, propaganda gold, they'll claim we violated conventions, use it to justify their own violations.
Sir, with respect, the Germans are using— I know what the Germans are using, Captain. That's not the point. We hold ourselves to higher standards. We have to. Frost saw where this was going, felt the trap closing. Official record will state that Sergeant Brennan made the shot with his issued M1903-A4 Springfield rifle. Is that clear? Sir, is that clear, Captain? Frost's voice went flat. Yes, sir.
You will instruct Sergeant Brennan that the Winchester is now officially classified. He will never speak of it, never write of it, never acknowledge it for the duration of his life. Sir, his father built that rifle, 4 years of work, his dying legacy will remain classified for 35 years. That's policy. After-action reports are declassified after 35 years. If Brennan wants recognition, then he can have it, but not now, not during the war. He deserves credit.
He'll get credit. Silver Star for extraordinary marksmanship with standard issue rifle. That's more than most men get. Frost stood, set down his glass. His voice was controlled, barely. Permission to inform Sergeant Brennan, sir. Granted, and Captain, you did the right thing. Regulations exist for reasons, but sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same. You chose to save lives. I respect that, but I also have to protect this army, protect this nation.
That means protecting our legal position. Yes, sir. Frost left, found Everett in the aid station, getting his cuts cleaned, bandaged. The medic was complaining about the barbed wire damage. You crawled through wire? Are you insane? Everett didn't answer, just sat there, 1,000-yard stare, the look of a man who'd killed and couldn't unkill. Frost waited until the medic finished, then took Everett outside. Walk with me. They walked, away from the tents, away from the other soldiers, into the French countryside that didn't care about any of this. You made the shot. Yes, sir. Hartmann's dead. German line is collapsing. Intelligence says withdrawal starting within hours. Good. Your shot saved 300 American lives, maybe more. Everett said nothing. You're getting the Silver Star. I don't want it, sir. You're getting it anyway. That's not optional. Frost stopped walking, turned to face Everett. But there's a condition. Everett waited. Official record will state you made the shot with a Springfield M1903A4, not the Winchester. The Winchester is classified. You will never mention it, never write about it, never acknowledge it for the rest of your life. The words hung in the air, like smoke, like poison. My father, I know, I argued, I lost. Orders from division, this is bigger than us. Everett's face showed nothing, but his hands clenched, unclenched. They want me to lie. They want you to protect operational security, to maintain legal standing, to... Frost stopped. Yes, they want you to lie. For how long? 35 years, standard declassification timeline. 35 years, Everett laughed, bitter, broken. My father spent 4 years building that rifle. Died knowing I'd use it. Died believing it would save American lives, and I have to pretend it doesn't exist. For 35 years, then you can tell the truth.
Indeed. 35 years. I'll be 58 years old. My father will have been dead for 43 years. And I'm supposed to... what? Keep his legacy hidden? Pretend the Springfield did what the Winchester did? Frost had no answer, because there was no good answer. You don't have a choice, Sergeant. This is an order. Everett looked at the Winchester, still strapped to his pack. 8 pounds of his father's love, his father's skill, his father's dying work.
What happens if I refuse? Court-martial, conduct unbecoming, falsified reports, unauthorized equipment, violation of... I know the charges, sir. They stood in silence. The war continued around them, men dying, men living, history being written in blood and lies. I'll do it, Everett said finally. I'll lie, I'll pretend, I'll dishonor my father's memory to protect the Army's reputation. You're not dishonoring. Don't. Everett's voice was sharp. Don't tell me I'm not dishonoring him. He built that rifle to save lives. It did. And I have to pretend it didn't exist. That's dishonor. That's betrayal. But I'll do it, because 300 men are alive, and that matters more than credit. Frost put a hand on Everett's shoulder. In 35 years, my father will still be dead, and I'll still have lied. August 20th, 1944, the German defensive line collapsed, exactly as predicted. Without Hartmann's coordination, the retreat turned into rout. American forces advanced 8 miles, casualties 12 KYA, 90% lower than projected. 327 men who would have died lived instead. Because of one shot, one bullet, one rifle, a rifle that officially didn't exist. September the 3rd, 1944. Division headquarters, France. The formation stood at attention. 200 soldiers, dress uniforms, polished boots, the pageantry of military recognition. Colonel Matheson stepped forward, held a small velvet box. Sergeant Everett Brennan, front and center. Everett marched forward, crisp, professional, the body doing what the mind couldn't. Matheson opened the box. The silver star gleamed. 3rd highest military decoration, valor in combat. Extraordinary heroism. For extraordinary heroism in action on August 19th, 1944, Sergeant Brennan, using his issued M1903A4 Springfield rifle, engaged and eliminated a high-value enemy target at extreme range. His actions directly resulted in the collapse of enemy defensive positions and saved an estimated 300 American lives. Matheson pinned the medal to Everett's chest. The United States Army is proud to recognize your service. The formation applauded. Captain Frost saluted. Other soldiers congratulated him. Everett stood there. The medal heavy on his chest, heavier than it should be, because it was built on a lie. M1903-A4 Springfield rifle, not Winchester Model 70, not his father's 4 years of dying work, not the truth. After the ceremony, the other snipers found him. Patterson, Martinez, recovered now, arm in a sling but alive, Reynolds, others. Hell of a shot, Brennan. at that range with a Springfield. Didn't think it was possible. You have to teach us. Show us how you did it. Everett felt sick. These men, good men, skilled shooters, wanted to learn, wanted to replicate what he'd done, but he couldn't teach them because what he'd done couldn't be done with a Springfield. Not reliably, not consistently, not at that range. The Springfield was a good rifle, a fine rifle, but it wasn't built for shots at the edge of possibility, wasn't capable of the precision needed, not the way the Winchester was. And Everett couldn't tell them that. Just practice, he said. Many thousands of rounds, learn your rifle. Thousands of rounds with the Springfield. With any rifle, learn it, master it. Patterson frowned. But the Springfield's trigger, learn to work with it, compensate, adapt. Everett was teaching them wrong information, knew it, hated it. But orders were orders. That night, alone in his tent, Everett wrote in his notebook, the private record he kept hidden. Shot 10,248. Winchester Model 70. Range confirmed. General Victor Hartman, KYA. Official record says Springfield. First lie. Won't be the last. He closed the notebook, hid it in his pack, the only place where truth existed. September through December 1944, the war continued. Everett continued sniping, now officially authorized to use the Winchester, but only in classified operations, and only with the understanding that all kills would be reported as Springfield. 23 more confirmed kills, all Winchester, all reported as Springfield. The lie grew, metastasized, became institutional. Military sniper schools began studying Brennan's impossible Springfield shots, analyzing how he'd achieved such precision with standard equipment, teaching wrong lessons, building doctrine on false foundations. Instructors at Camp Perry, including Sergeant Drummond, scratched their heads, couldn't figure out how Brennan had made shots that should have been impossible. Maybe we underestimated the Springfield, they said. No, they'd accurately estimated the Springfield. They'd just been lied to about what rifle actually made the shots. December 1944, the war in Europe grinding toward conclusion. Germany collapsing. The end in sight. Everett received orders, rotation home, enough combat time, enough kills, enough war. He packed his gear. The Winchester wrapped carefully. The notebook hidden. The silver star in a box he couldn't look at. Captain Frost found him the night before departure. You did good work, Brennan. I lied for 4 months straight, sir. You followed orders. Same thing sometimes. Frost pulled out a small journal. His own notebook. Leather-bound, personal. I kept a record, the truth. Every Winchester kill, every detail, I'm putting it in my personal effects. To be opened after my death. Someday, the truth will come out. In 35 years. When we're old men and my father is decades dead. Better late than never, Everett wanted to argue. Wanted to rage, wanted to burn the silver star and tell the truth. But 327 men were alive. Men with wives, children, futures, all because Everett had made one shot. That mattered more than credit, more than truth, more than his father's recognition. So he said nothing, just nodded, shook Frost's hand, left for home. June 1945. Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. Everett stood at his father's grave, the Winchester in a canvas case beside him, the silver star in his pocket, both feeling like betrayals. The headstone was simple. Gareth Brennan, 1895 to 1942, beloved father, master craftsman. No mention of the rifle he'd built, the legacy he'd created, the lives he'd saved through his son's hands. Everett placed the silver star on the headstone. I made the shot, Dad. Saved 300 men. Just like you knew I would. The The wind moved through the valley, bent the grass, the same wind Everett had learned to read as a boy. But they made me lie, said it was Springfield, said I can't talk about your rifle for 35 years, said it's classified. Tears came. First time since his father's death. I'm sorry. You spent 4 years building perfection. Died knowing it would save lives, and I have to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm so sorry. No answer, just wind, just grass, just the weight of silence. Everett picked up the silver star. Pocketed it, would never wear it, couldn't, would never wear. The medal was built on denying his father's work. He took over Brennan Gun Works, 24 years old, master gunsmith by inheritance and training, the best in 3 states. Word spread fast. Gareth's boy is home, running the shop now. Customers came, hunters, target shooters, law enforcement. Some were veterans who'd heard about the Silver Star. Heard you were a sniper. Just a soldier, sir. What rifle did you use? The lie came easier every time. Springfield M1903-A4, standard issue. Ever try anything else? Springfield was good enough. Each lie was a small death, a tiny betrayal, but Everett told them anyway. The Winchester hung above his workbench, just another rifle, just a tool. Customers would sometimes ask about it. Nice Winchester, you hunt with that? Used to, deer rifle, my father built it. Mind if I try it? Not for sale, not for loan, family piece. They understood everyone had family pieces, heirlooms, things with sentimental value. None of them knew this family piece had killed a general at extreme range. 1946. Everett married Eleanor Whitmore, 23 years old, schoolteacher, brown hair, kind eyes, the kind of woman who saw past the walls men built around trauma. She noticed the nightmares, the way Everett would wake up sweating, shaking, the 1,000-yard stare. Do you want to talk about it? No. It might help. It won't. She didn't push, just held him, waited, let him know she was there when he was ready. But Everett was never ready, because talking meant lying, and he'd lied enough. 1947, Gareth Brennan Jr. was born, named after his grandfather, the gunsmith who'd built a legacy in metal and wood. Everett held his son, looked at the tiny face, made a promise. I'll teach you your grandfather's craft, his discipline, his precision, and someday, when you're older, I'll tell you the truth, even if I can't tell anyone else. But years passed, and Everett never told, couldn't risk it, even to family. Orders were orders. 1949, Margaret born. 1951, Thomas. 3 children, a growing family, a successful business, the American dream. But the Winchester hung above the workbench. Silent accusation, daily reminder. Every day Everett would oil it, maintain it, keep it perfect. Same ritual his father had performed. Keeping the legacy alive even if no one knew what it was. Veterans would visit the shop, men who'd served, who understood things civilians couldn't. What did you do in the war? Sniper, European theater. How many? 31 confirmed. The number was true, the details were lies. Impressive. Ever make any long shots? Extreme range, August 1944. Damn, with what rifle? Springfield M1903-A4. The lie, every time, automatic now, muscle memory of deception. Some veterans would nod knowingly. Springfield's a good rifle, reliable. Some would look skeptical. That's pushing it for a Springfield. Perfect conditions, perfect execution. Little bit of luck, that much was true at least. 1950s and 60s, the children grew. Everett taught them gunsmithing, precision, discipline. Measure twice, cut once. Tolerance of 0.0001 inches, no exceptions. Every tool has a purpose, every action has consequences. His father's lessons, passed to another generation, but the context missing, the why behind the what. The children never knew their grandfather had built the Winchester for war, never knew it had saved 300 lives, never knew their father carried the weight of decades of lies. 1965. Gareth Jr. was 18, asked to use the Winchester for hunting. No. Why not? You said it's a deer rifle. It was, it's retired now. Rifles don't retire, Dad. This one did. Gareth Jr. didn't understand. How could he? The truth was classified. 1972, Colonel Matheson died. Heart attack. Age 66. The man who'd ordered the cover-up, who'd classified the truth. Gone. Everett read the obituary, felt nothing. Matheson had been following orders too. Everyone just following orders. Lies built on lies. Built on duty. 1975. Captain Nathaniel Frost died. Cancer. Age 68. Everett attended the funeral. Maine. Cold rain. A handful of veterans. Frost's widow approached him after. He left something for you. The leather journal. The one Frost had kept. The true record. He wanted you to have it. Said someday it might matter. Everett took the journal. Read it that night. Frost's neat handwriting, every Winchester kill documented, every detail recorded. The truth. But still 4 years until declassification. Still 4 years of silence. 1978. Everett was 57. His father had been dead 36 years. The Winchester was 41 years old, and the lie was 34 years old. 1 more year until the truth could come out. Everett counted days. March 15, 1979, the letter arrived at Brennan Gun Works, official U.S. Army letterhead, Freedom of Information Act request approval, declassification of after-action reports from World War II, including August 19, 1944, 2nd Infantry Division, sniper operations, extreme range engagement. The report listed equipment used: Winchester Model 70 civilian hunting rifle, serial W-1847, 35 years. The truth was finally legal to speak. But Everett didn't speak it. Not yet. What was the point? Who would care? The war was decades over. The men who'd been saved were living their lives. His father was long dead. But someone else cared. Dr. Martin Herschel, military historian, University of Pennsylvania, researching sniper tactics in World War II. He found the declassified report, read it again, couldn't believe it. Winchester Model 70, a civilian rifle for an extreme range confirmed kill. The official Silver Star citation said Springfield, but the declassified AAR said Winchester. Discrepancy, contradiction, the kind of thing historians lived for. Herschel started digging, found more reports, more Winchester kills, all officially reported as Springfield. Months of systematic deception. He found Frost's journal, donated to the Army Archives after his death, the complete record. 6 years of Winchester kills reported as Springfield. Herschel wrote an article, The Rifle They Denied, How America's Greatest WW2 Sniper Shot Was Covered Up for 35 Years. Published in Military History Quarterly, Spring 1979, the article named Everett Brennan described the Winchester, detailed the deception, included quotes from Frost's journal. 3 days after publication, the phone at Brennan Gun Works started ringing, local newspaper first, Shenandoah Valley Press. Mr. Brennan, is it true you made an extreme range shot with a hunting rifle? Everett held the phone, the question he'd waited 35 years to answer, truthfully. Yes. And your father built the rifle? Yes. Spent 4 years customizing it, 1937 to 1941. He knew war was coming, prepared me for it. Why did the army say it was a Springfield? Orders, legal concerns, Geneva Convention interpretations, they classified it, told me never to speak of it. For 35 years, yes.
How does that feel? Everett looked at the Winchester, still hanging above the workbench, 42 years old, perfect, maintained, ready. Feels like I can finally honor my father's memory. The article ran front page. Local gunsmith's secret, the rifle that saved 300 lives. Then a P picked it up. Then UPI. Then national newspapers. The story spread. The rifle the army had called a toy. The shot they'd covered up. The father-son legacy denied for decades. America loved it.
Underdog story, government cover-up, truth finally revealed. Within a week, Everett was doing interviews, national networks, news programs, magazines. Every interview he told the truth. Finally. My father built this rifle knowing he'd never see me use it. He died before America entered the war, but he prepared me, customized every part, made it perfect. How many rounds did you practice? Over 10,000, I kept count, everyone recorded. Why did the army cover it up? Legal concerns, civilian weapons were irregular, they wanted clean records, clean legal standing, so they ordered me to lie for 35 years. Are you angry? Everett thought about that. 35 years of lying, of denying his father's work, of watching military schools teach wrong lessons based on false information. No, I'm not angry. 327 men lived. Men who would have died in the assault we didn't have to make. Those men got to go home, got to have families, got to live lives. That matters more than credit, more than recognition, more than truth. But for 35 years, I kept a promise to my commanding officer, to my country. Now that promise is fulfilled. Now I can keep a different promise, to my father, to tell his story, to honor his work. The interviews became a pilgrimage. People drove to Shenandoah Valley to see the rifle, to meet the man, to touch history. Everett would show them the Winchester, let them hold it, feel the balance, the precision. This is craftsmanship. My father's hands built this. Every surface perfect, every measurement exact. This is what love looks like when you're a gunsmith. Military delegations came. Sniper school instructors, embarrassed now. They'd been teaching that the Springfield could make extreme range shots reliably, based on Brennan's achievement, but it wasn't the Springfield, it was the Winchester. And they'd been wrong for 35 years. We apologize for the confusion, Mr. Brennan. Nothing to apologize for. You were given false information, not your fault. Still, we've been teaching wrong doctrine for decades. Then fix it. Teach the truth. Weapon familiarity matters more than specifications. A shooter who knows their rifle intimately will outperform someone with technically superior equipment. The military listened, updated training, new doctrine. The Brennan principle, mastery through familiarity. Sniper students were now encouraged to customize their rifles, to develop intimate knowledge, to shoot thousands of rounds, to build the connection between shooter and weapon. What Everett's father had understood in 1937 became official military doctrine in 1979. Better late than never. September 1979, the Secretary of the Army sent a personal letter. Mr. Brennan, on behalf of the United States Army, I apologize for the 3.5 decades during which your father's contribution to American victory was classified and denied. While the decision made operational sense at the time, the effect was to dishonor a craftsman who gave his dying years to protecting American soldiers. This was wrong. We recognize it as wrong, and we apologize. Attached was an offer. Upgrade the Silver Star to Distinguished Service Cross, second highest military decoration. Everett declined. The Silver Star was for the shot. My father's work doesn't need a higher medal. It needs recognition. You've given that. That's enough. But he did accept one thing. The Army wanted the Winchester. for display, for study, for history. On one condition, Everett said, it stays in the family, on loan to the army, but it returns to us when we ask. Agreed. The Winchester went to Fort Benning, U.S. Army Sniper School. Display case in the main hall. Plaque. Winchester Model 70, serial W-1847, built by Gareth Brennan, 1937 to 1941. Used by Sergeant Everett Brennan to eliminate General Victor Hartman, August 19, 1944. Range, 798 yards. Lives saved, 327. Proof that mastery transcends equipment. Every sniper student passed that display. Everyone read that plaque. Everyone understood the lesson. Dedication matters, practice matters, mastery matters. More than equipment, more than technology, more than doctrine. The human weapon system, the bond between shooter and rifle, that's what wins. Gareth Brennan had known it, had built it, had passed it to his son, and now finally the Army acknowledged it. 1985. Everett Brennan was diagnosed with lung cancer, same disease that killed his father, same progression, same prognosis, 2 to 3 years, maybe less. The doctors were apologetic. If we'd caught it earlier, doesn't matter, I've had a good life, longer than my father got, that's enough. Eleanor held his hand, 62 years old, still the kindest eyes. What do you need? To pass on the rifle, to finish what Dad started. Gareth Brennan III was 16 years old, same age Everett had been when he received the Winchester, same age his grandfather had calculated for when building it. The symmetry was perfect, eerie, as if Gareth Sr. had planned this across 3 generations. Maybe he had. Everett called the army. I need the Winchester back. Family matter. Of course, Mr. Brennan, we'll have it shipped immediately. The rifle arrived in its case, still perfect, still maintained, museum-quality care. Everett cleaned it anyway. Old habits, his father's rituals, oil on the bolt, cloth on the stock, precision care for precision tools. March 1986. Gareth III's 16th birthday. Everett had arranged a family gathering. 3 generations, children, grandchildren, the Brennan family complete, in the workshop, the same workshop where Gareth Sr. had built the rifle 49 years earlier. Everett presented it to his grandson. This rifle carries 3 generations now. Your great-grandfather built it. I mastered it. Your father maintained it. Now you'll honor it. Gareth III held the Winchester, felt the balance, the weight, the history. What did great-grandpa Gareth do? I mean, why did he build this? Everett told the story, all of it, from his father's WW2 service to the cancer diagnosis, the 4 years of customization, the practice rounds, the shot, the 35-year lie. He built this knowing he'd die before I used it. Built it anyway, because he loved me, because he wanted to protect American boys, because that's what fathers do. He showed Gareth III the hidden compartment in the stock. The note. Still there. Yellowed now. Fragile. For the 800-yard shot, trust it absolutely. Gareth III read the note, his great-grandfather's handwriting, a ghost speaking across half a century. I don't understand. How did he know? He watched Europe burning, watched Hitler rise, watched America pretend it wouldn't happen here. And he knew war was coming, knew his son would fight, knew there'd be a moment when precision would matter more than anything. And he was right. He was right. Everything he built, everything he taught me, it all came down to 1 second. 1 bullet, 1 shot that saved 327 lives. Everett's voice roughened. The cancer in his lungs making breathing harder. The rifle didn't make the shot. Practice made the shot. Years of dedication, years of love made manifest in skill. He looked at his grandson. 16, the same age, the same potential. I don't know if you'll ever need to make a shot like that. I hope you won't. But whether you do or not, learn this rifle. Master it. Not because you might need it, but because your great-grandfather built it. Because it represents something bigger than bullets. What does it represent? Love, preparation, the idea that you can build something that outlasts you, that continues your work after you're gone. Your great-grandfather died in 1942, but in 1944, his hands saved American lives. Through me, through this rifle. Gareth III understood, or started to. I'll take care of it. No, don't just take care of it. Use it, shoot it, many thousands of rounds, same as I did. Learn it, master it. Make it yours. That's what great-grandpa would want. Not a museum piece, a living legacy. Over the next year, as the cancer took Everett, he trained his grandson, same way his father had trained him, reading wind, calculating distance, breathing control, trigger discipline, the old lessons passed forward, generation to generation. By the time Everett died, December 1987, age 66, same age as his father, Gareth III had fired 2,000 rounds through the Winchester.
8,000 more to go. But a start. A foundation. The legacy continuing. The funeral was large. 400 people. Veterans, customers, family, friends. General Frost's son, now a retired colonel himself, gave the eulogy. My father kept a journal, a record of truth when truth was forbidden. In it, he wrote about Sergeant Everett Brennan, about the impossible shot, about the father who built the rifle and the son who mastered it.
My father wrote, "Today, Sergeant Brennan saved 300 lives with a rifle his father built from love. I authorized it. History may judge me, but 300 mothers won't have to bury sons. That's my legacy." Everett Brennan's legacy is bigger. He proved that dedication beats equipment, that mastery beats technology, that love, a father's love, can reach across death and save lives through the hands of a son. He made an impossible shot, and then he stayed silent for 35 years, because he understood that honor sometimes means sacrifice, that duty sometimes means lies, that protecting others sometimes means denying yourself. The Winchester Model 70 killed a general at extreme range, but the real weapon was the bond between father and son. The real ammunition was practice. The real scope was love that transcended death. We honor Sergeant Everett Brennan. We honor Gareth Brennan, who built the rifle. We honor the 327 American soldiers who lived because of them. And we remember that sometimes the weapons they mock are the weapons that win. Present day. Gareth Brennan III is now in his 50s, runs Brennan Gunworks, 4th generation. The Winchester hangs above the workbench, still perfect, still maintained, still ready. He's fired over 10,000 rounds through it now. Like his grandfather, like his namesake, every shot recorded, every variable documented, the database continuing. His son, Gareth Brennan IV, is learning, 13 years old, already showing promise, already understanding that this rifle is more than metal and wood. The story has been told, retold, published, studied. The cover-up is history now. The truth is established. Military sniper schools teach the Brennan Principle. Weapon familiarity over specifications, mastery through dedication. The human weapon system as integrated whole. Every year on August 19th, the family gathers at the workshop, at Gareth Sr.'s grave, remembering the rifle that was mocked, the shot that saved lives, the father who built legacy in metal and wood, the lie that lasted 35 years, the truth that endures forever. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for weekly stories of forgotten courage. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Did family serve in World War II? To Sergeant Everett Brennan, to Gareth Brennan, Master Gunsmith, to the 327 American soldiers who lived. We remember, we honor, we tell your stories. Sometimes the weapon they mock is the weapon that wins. Sometimes love is the deadliest precision on earth. Thank you for watching.